So what I plan to do is to show microprofile, some tricks, then deployment tricks, a little bit Kubernetes, a little bit Quarkus at the end. It is not in the agenda because it was not available as I submitted the paper. So I think something like this, right? So I'm asking you whether this is any questions regarding Jakarta EE MicroProfile? No questions so far. So we can take the time for questions, and then we start with or without the slides. So the first time no one has questions. So the people in where I was, in Gdansk, were better than you. They had lots of questions. It's a different topic, but. Oh, so they are, you only have the answers, right? I should ask questions and then you can answer. Okay.
So in how many projects do you use MicroProfile already?
All. And the reason is, the question is, how many projects I'm using MicroProfile already? And the reason is, I ignored actually MicroProfile completely for a while because for me it was crazy to be dependent on some strange runtime. Okay. But what happens 1.5 years before? All major application servers have MicroProfile. So I actually use MicroProfile without asking for permission because it's there. So for me, MicroProfile is like a part of the platform.
And what is running? It's Payara?
Depends on the clients. So some clients running Whitefly. So we use small Rye to have more functionality. Payara is pretty complete. Some larger projects running on Open Liberty and one project on Tommy. And right now, most of my projects are Payara, but this is historical reasons. So I did a lot of Glassfish, and now they have Payara. But Whitefly is very popular as well. And I think what will happen, Quarkus will take off as well. So I'll show you why.
So then do you use Quarkus in production already?
No, it is too early. But in one project, we have a massive amount of data, like I forgot actually this crazy number. It's like the IoT device is sending us like a half gig per second or something, or either half gig or 500 gigs. So it's this incredible amount of things. And we probably will use Quarkus like edge load balancers. So build small things as load balancer. And right now it is Whitefly, everything. And it processes incredible amount of transactions. But this could be the first thing where we will have to scale now up and down early or fast. Any other questions? And most of projects are actually more boring than you might think. So at conferences, everything looks like, cold fusion and quantum computing. But in the real world, it's like, you're happy with modern Java, and yeah, this is why Quarkus could be interesting. So, any other questions? So you don't have to ask because you know everything, right? 42, this is the team 42. It was hard to find the room. I spent 15 minutes to find it. It's what like. I think so. Yeah. I never was here, but this is nice because I can sit down. This is crazy to code. I never do this. So this is better for me. I think we can start. 9. So, hello, my name is Adam Bean, and I'm working still as a consultant. It's still really interesting. I spent half of my time, more than half of my time on backends. Nothing changed so far, except I use a little bit more or always MicroProfile because it is available everywhere. And at the front end, I'm actually do the same what in the back end. I'm deleting frameworks. So I spend lots of time, with web standards, just removing Angular because clients don't like it anymore. They don't like too many migrations without a reason. And some developers love it, and the others not so. And for me, I don't get it why we need 25,000 files to have a button on screen, right? So, okay, this is about me. Very fast. I will sit down. It's faster. And yeah, I still enjoy my work. I'm a freelancer. I always was since 1997. What's interesting, I have a podcast. Why I do podcasts? Because it is easier to me to have a one-hour conversation on conferences. Not always that easy. And the last podcast is about Payara Micro versus Payara Full. Lots of projects ask me about that. Which server should I choose? There are also a couple of podcasts about Quarkus and whatever. So whatever interests me, it's there. There are no ads, so it's just conversation. And yeah, and my personal philosophy is learn something and don't migrate it too much. So stick with it, and try to bet on kind of standard. So this is the idea. So in the backend I choose Java because the most popular language, and the front end I do JavaScript, and it works well. So I don't have to relearn the frameworks every 5 minutes, right? By the way, if you know my presentation, I'm really glad if you could ask questions or say, you are stupid, it doesn't work this way, my opinion is this. So this would be the best possible presentations for me. Otherwise, a little bit boring, or I don't know what to do. Is it too hard, too easy, and whatever. So there are a couple of online workshops, if you like. And the most interesting part is AHEX TV. The first Monday of the month, I answer all questions live streaming YouTube. So how this works, there's a GitHub gists. You can ask whatever you like, or almost whatever you like, and I answer this. And by the way, meanwhile, there is a community which answers the questions before they arise. So it's like really fun for me. And the deal is I never answer a technical question via email. So it's time saver as well. And there are lots of workshops in Munich Airport. There are people from all over the world. Usually what I do in my projects, you first see web standards without frameworks, and the other one is backend, almost without frameworks. And there are already enough sufficient registration, so they will take place. And this was the last slide. So now I will close the slides, and they could crash. Oh, you don't see that. But you can imagine that I've write something, right? So wait a second. So let's do this. Okay. So the title is Code Shrinking Techniques. And why this? I do a lot of code reviews. And in the code reviews, I see a lots of code which I don't understand, because they are like, ancient patents and stuff which I have no idea why they are there. And after removing all these things which I don't understand, everyone seems to be happier. So, and this I would like to talk to you. If you are working in clouds, microservice-like environments, there is a lot of stuff which you don't need, and this is actually the idea. So, the patents make sense, and particular patents or techniques only make sense in particular context. But right now, the context is, I would say, so strict that we can do more than 5 or 10 years ago. So this would be the idea. And it's, as I said, at the end, I would like to show you some new stuff. So first, for me, I spend also a lot of time with startups, surprisingly. And why this? They would really like to have MicroProfile or Jakarta EE without knowing what it actually is. So it's not like they come to me and say, hey, please show us J2E or Java EE or some XML. No, they say, we would like to have something, right? How to build this. And if I show them something with MicroProfile on Jakarta EE, they will usually use it. And the question is, why that? Because time to first commit. You shouldn't underestimate that. This is actually where MicroProfile or Java EE shines. Why? So in 30 seconds, you can set up the service. And this is incredibly important for beginners, smaller projects. If you have to perform evaluations for 2 hours to see hello world on the screen, I think people will lose interest. So time to first commit, very, very important. In a larger company, a manager asked me about my opinion about low code. It's like, programming without programming, or programming with Visual Basic-like environments, let's say. And I say, okay, what about, standard, let's say Java. Is like Java is too complicated. It's like, let's do a workshop. And what's turned out, everything was easy except setting up Java Home and the Maven settings for the proxy environment. So the people spend half an hour, fiddling with Java Home and Maven that they couldn't get. Like, that's too complicated. I said, Java is not Java, it's just Maven. You need it everywhere, right? But if they got that, everything was easy. So they couldn't even, they didn't know what annotations are. It's like, put add inject on it and it will work, and they were happy, right? So this was actually an interesting experiment. Again, you can ask questions. So the first thing to reduce time to code is Maven archetype. And I created one. I always create one. So what this Maven archetype does, it creates a very simple Java EE project. Why I do this? Because you can save time. Otherwise, there are, I don't know, you can have some problems editing XML. And why I created my own archetype is because, actually, or do this 11. We can switch to Visual Studio Code later. It doesn't matter. So I used recently Visual Studio Code, and people ask me, so you don't using NetBeans anymore? Yes, I use NetBeans, but sometimes I use something else just for fun, right? So I need the junk, and I have the shrink project and the POM. So the POM, what's different to last year probably, I don't even remember, I have MicroProfile 2. Now we have MicroProfile 3, which comes with a little bit more, I would say, features like liveness and readiness checks are there. So there's like incremental updates. Now people ask me, is it just show? I was like, no, in my project I expect something like this plus test scope dependencies. But what I don't like to see is a lot of runtime dependencies. And with MicroProfile, you can eliminate already a lot. I show you how you can eliminate. So why this? The smaller the war, the faster the deployment. The faster deployment, the more productive you are, and the more people can save, the money. So this is the basic idea. So this is the whole project with Maven, and so there is like a JAX-RS resource. Usually you will get a bins XML file, which says everything is injectable. And what's new already, because got lots of questions, there is a MicroProfile config. And what happens here, I can inject properties. Now this eliminates a few lines of Java EE code. What I did previously, I injected this by myself. What this does, it looks first into environment entries. So environment variables like Kubernetes DC, and then overrides that with system properties, and you can override, it's not right. So first property file, then environment entries and system properties. So what it means is, what I could do right now is, I could configure my application with that, or actually, I could specify a default value here, override this with properties, and then override it with Kubernetes. So what it means is you don't need any configuration frameworks. This is basically done, and also compatible with config maps. If you would like to see this, I recorded a YouTube video of 3 minutes or whatever, how to use config maps with that. So there's actually nothing to learn. So you just create a config map and it can be injectable. So done. What config maps is like what is used in the clouds. Like this is like property file with a name. This is a config map in various clouds. Why various clouds? Because everyone I know uses Kubernetes. So OpenShift is Kubernetes distribution, AKS, GKA, or Kubernetes is like Docker 5 years ago. So Kubernetes still needs Docker, but this no one talks about Marathon or other schedulers, right? Still no questions? I think it's too early, right? So you are in some different mode, like blue screen mode. There are no more blue screens. There are white screens. There's other screens, right? The color changed, I think. What I heard. So we have that. Now, how to deploy applications? So first, in a workshop, JavaScript workshop, someone asked me, a JavaScript developer, what you're doing with the IDE, you are saving, and why you have to save to deploy it? What do you have in JavaScript, like gulp watcher? It watches the files, and on every change, it ships the files to production. And I say, actually, I have no idea why something is not there, because it's incredibly easy to implement. And I wrote a small tool with Java SE7. It's like 5 classes. And what this thing does is it watches changes in your file system with Watcher, and now with Timer because it's faster, and then tries to find Maven says maven clean install and copies a file. And I use it all the time. It is as very easy, and I don't need any plugins. And I would just to fire it up. It doesn't actually matter. It's exactly the same like maven clean install copy. This is what I usually did all the time. And this is a little bit automated. It's one jar, has nothing to do with Java EE. It's written with Java SE7, so it was just an idea. And because it's lesser magic than some plugins, I would like to use it. So what I have here, oh, what is that? OSGI is not my thing. So what I have here in shrink, I have here a project which I created, and I would like to start what? And what does it? It builds the 4 kilobyte war and deploys that to all servers I have. And in the blueprint, you will see Open Liberty, Tommy, Payara, Whitefly. So the idea is if something doesn't work, I can fire up Whitefly or Tommy or whatever and see whether it works on the different server. So this is the basic idea. And because it doesn't take me nothing, it deploys everywhere. So this is what happens. Now, and because you probably say, no, WebSphere is big, I would like to start with Java 11. The Liberty is like the newer version of WebSphere. And it doesn't work. Exception in has been launched already. Wait a second. So something already works. Kill Java. Kill Java again. Start Liberty. J11. It's Java 11. Start Liberty. Now it works. So you should never try to start application servers twice. So it already run in the background. So what is H? So what was Java? So it was also killed. And now Liberty started, and this what is started. And in the what RC, you will see, this is on my GitHub, completely free. You can download the jar and launch it. You will see exactly the same effect, if you like. So now, what we get is the following. If I switch to the Firefox and go to localhost 9080, is Open Liberty with update available. So I think they have 4 or more updates a year, even monthly updates or quarterly updates. So they upgraded that. And this is actually the current status of all servers. You get 4 new versions a year with minor features because you get 4 microprofile versions a year. So a microprofile, you get 4 new releases a year. And Jakarta EE and Java EE is a more stable platform. So first, so I have that. And shrink was, I think, shrink and resources and pink. So enjoy Jakarta EE with microprofile. So this was the microprofile config. Seems to work. So now, oh, my NetBeans is killed, or I killed my NetBeans. So it started again. And then hex some code. So NetBeans, and what if, I think I always what I did in Krakow is the following. I always do something Dragon related. And so let's do the Dragon thing again. Now a little bit different. What you can do, I would like to kill some tons of code with that. The Dragon has a name, and I asked last year, but I forgot. And it has like firepower, right? And so that's all. And the Dragon can be exposed here. And let's say we would use the name of the message here. So the name would be enjoy, which is not really good for a Dragon, but and because of the team, of course, 42. And produces. I have I have WebSphere right now, or WebSphere Liberty, or Open Liberty. So I have to tell to use JSON. So now, if I repeat that, you see this is JSON. And by the way, the what thing deploys, it deploys behind the scenes here. So the war is 4 kilobyte, and it builds in 2 seconds and deploys that. So on every save, it deploys. So I have about 100 or more deploys a day. So this is my working schedule. And I don't care about the service. I take whatever my clients have and just go with it. So time to first commit is the very first. So the easier. Yesterday night, I got an email, something doesn't work, so I had to reproduce the environment. It's always important to me, you know, to be quickly, to create some proof of concepts very, very quickly. Or, you know, you probably have meetings, and I don't like meetings a lot. So before we discuss things in meetings, it's easier to start a proof of concept. So and you know, show real code. Now, still questions? No questions. Now, what we got, of course it's not. But the first thing which you can remove is Swagger. So what you get for free is openapi. So openapi. So we have the Swagger generated from the JSON-B, which is Jakarta EE MicroProfile automatically, so tons of annotations can be already removed. And the Swagger dependency is not needed because if you have to perform some customizations, there is an API annotations, API response, and so forth. They come from MicroProfile, and they're already on the server. And all servers, most servers I know, have some proprietary advancements. So already I can go, oh, there are two. This is bad. Wait a second. What I have to do is, this was yesterday, a proof of concept, exactly. And just deploy it again. So shrink. There are multiple applications deployed on the Liberty. I deleted all and redeployed the application. So there is a get ping. So and I see this is JSON. Try it out, and I get the firepower. So and this is now WebSphere. So if my clients are WebSphere, this is the experience. And as you saw in the war, there is no setup needed. The only thing what I did is I added microprofile dependency to be able to compile MicroProfile, but right now I'm not even using MicroProfile. It comes out of the box. There is no effective MicroProfile dependency. Okay, cool. So this is already nice. And so what we learned from that is this kills all DTOs and all mappers. So I think this is the new data transfer object if you really need it. This is a JSON-B. It is customizable. And for me, it's actually really nice. It's everything which has public attributes. You don't need getters and setters. It's just, you know, data transporter. So we use it all the time. With that, it already saves weeks in project. No mappers, no nothing like this. And sometimes even we make it persistent if we have to with entities. And if this comes from no Elasticsearch, it is like it is. This is the new data transporter. Questions so far? And if it has to be flexible, this is what I showed you probably last year. I use JSON-P, which I would like to skip because it's more boring. JSON-P is like hash map. You know JSON-P? JSON-P? Yeah, it is like hash map. I would just say add, and build and return it. So I would like to skip that because it's obvious. This is not that obvious, and I think beautiful. So at the beginning, I hated that because of the public fields, but I thought actually it's a very good idea because everyone knows now this is like data transporter. Okay? So why make it private and getters and setters doesn't make any sense. Yes?
So does it mean that you stop using setters and getters for all?
I stop them almost all cases, only if they are needed. Okay. So they are optional. Yeah, but I stopped using them 10 years ago, probably. But now this is now the last. I mean,
will they work without setters, but only getters and private?
No, it cannot be immutable. I mean, you can always set it, but if you look at the Java EE applications, we don't have layers, so you will immediately see that something tries to change the object, right? So I know what you mean. So in theory, it is bad, but in practice, nothing happens. So I perform lots of code reviews and never saw that someone tries to fiddle with DTOs. So we have other problems in projects than protecting private state of DTOs, I would say. Okay. So what you see here is not necessarily the absolute best practice. Is this what works in projects? And if you have strict architects, you can run into trouble with that. And you will have to configure Sonar a little bit. So if you have Sonar-driven development, doesn't work well with that. Okay? Cool. Now, let's move on. So if we have a Java class and let's say Dragon Dragon's castle. And the castle public dragon show dragon, right? And there is the dragon on the other side, even functional with some fire, if you of the river. New dragon, and this is like this is what you told me yesterday. No, this is the name of the dragon. Okay, so almost is the name of the dragon. So let's do this, and of course I can inject that. No wonder. So inject dragon castle, and just use this here instead of this castle. Sure. Now cool, but what I could do. Let's see whether it works first. So I can go here and try too many buttons. Firepower 0. Execute, exactly. Yeah, this is the new one. And 42. So actually, yeah. People like to click, but curl is always better. But we have the feature right now. Yes? Okay, a little bit. So, editor fonts 24. This is for developers who already know JDK 1.2. This is the font size. So now we have this, and now let's say we have here an exception. Throw new runtime exception. Dragon sleeps. So no dragon basically. And wait a second. What I will do, what I like to do is curl now. You know, so the buttons are working, but this is faster. So localhost 9080. Shrink resources and pink. Resources and pink. And what you see is nothing because, so internal error, which is not nice. And what I see a lot is lots of exceptions. Hierarchies, remappings, and stuff like that. But what you can do actually, this is all trick. You can say sleeping dragon exception, which extends, you already probably know it, but in my projects still no web application exception. And now I can go here and say response status, let's say 400. And response for headers info message build done. So with that, and I have to use it, I would say new sleeping dragon exception. I get bad requests with info dragon sleeps. So you see all the remappings is obsolete. What you can do right now, you can create exceptions which maps themselves to the proper HTTP status code. So with that, you can save tons of code. What I usually see, some exception, custom exception is thrown, in some class, then remap twice, and at the end, there's an exception handler or exception mapper which tries to investigate afterwards what actually happened. So with that, you can remove, I would say, at least 50K of code from your project. Cool. Now, we can say, this is nice, but we should try to wake up the dragon. So I can say retry. Max retries twice. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So now start that. Takes a little bit longer. And where is the wake up attempt, wake up attempt, wake up attempt. The first call, so what it means is, this is a microprofile fault tolerance. This is the replacement of Hystrix, which is dead anyway. 1 year ago, someone asked me, why you are not using Hystrix? Hystrix was created by Netflix, and Netflix cannot be wrong. And they killed Hystrix, so because they cannot be wrong, so it was obsolete. So now we have 3 wake-up attempts. And what you can do right now is say, okay, but if this doesn't work, please go to the default method called, let's say, robot dragon. Or cyber dragon. And there's a method called dragon, cyber dragon. And it says, dragon, I'm real, 13, whatever. So now, if I do it again, I have too many terminals. Drinks. Wait a second, I close that one. I will close this one. This is important. This is no idea what it is. And this can be closed, and this is needed. And we see firepower 13.9, I'm real. So what it happens, it tried 3 times, and then fallback was invoked. And this is fault tolerance, also available on all servers. I use it a little bit, but this was actually the main driver for Hystrix. And with a little bit of time, I would show you bulkheads, of course. Everyone would like to have bulkhead and circuit breakers, and everything is in place. It's part of the standard. The thing is, if you really need it, you can just use it. Okay? Questions?
You've mentioned one more annotation, bulkhead. What is it?
What bulkhead is, so value on waiting task queue. What bulkheads is more or less important. Let's say we would communicate with different microservices. And let's imagine, this is like it is. The OpenLiberty OpenLiberty optimizes itself, but the other application servers are more or less a fixed set of threads. If we will now just call unprotected microservice, and the microservice is slow, but it works, it will consume all the threads, and the server will just be all the resources will be occupied for this microservice. So with the bulkheads, you can say 2 threads, 2 threads, 2 threads, and you can share or you can spread the resources between microservices. So if you have one microservice too slow, the calls to all other microservices will work. And the most famous already built-in bulkhead use case are admin consoles of application servers. So if you have an application server, they have admin consoles, and they always have dedicated thread pools with 2 threads. So you can always access the console, even though the application server is overloaded. And as a small best practice, all the metrics you're exposing, actually, they have to be exposed via bulkhead. Otherwise, if the server is on the heavy load, Prometheus won't be able to gather the metrics. Cool? So I will skip all the other fault tolerance patterns you should remember. It's already built in. And if it's built in, you can save time. You don't have to investigate. It's already part of the whole thing. Now, yes. MicroProfile, what I have is MicroProfile 2.1. There's MicroProfile 3 is the current one. And for me, MicroProfile is like a Java EE. I don't make a huge difference. The only thing is, you see MicroProfile, this different import statement.
So how do you use it to expose metrics with
This is what I wanted to do. So I could show you some slides, but code is always faster. So now, what I would like to do is, let's say the boring stuff where everyone is excited, right? So what I see a lot is, wow, we have matrix, so you can do here meters. So with that, what I get is the following. So this works, and what I could do is localhost 9080/matrix. And I have the open matrix. So in 3 hours, the standardized open matrix, which are actually Prometheus matrix. And now the cool story is with application, I get now my application counter. So you see here the metric of the method. So this is a little bit boring in my projects because these metrics, and by the way, they are immediately usable. So what I could do now, I could set up here a Prometheus, and what it just does, it opens a predefined YAML file. I'm not very good with editing YAML, and 9080 should be 9080, and this is Dragon. And I forgot the port number, 90, where is it? You see the? 9090. Thanks you. 9090, and we have already the metrics available to Prometheus. So what I did is from scratch. I expose a metric, and it can be gathered by Prometheus and exposed via Grafana, and with Alert Manager, we could react, to slow performance. But this is not that exciting. So what's really exciting is, I think we have Devoxx PL. Does it work? Okay, it works. Now, what I could do, let's say conference scanner. I could actually do the following. String get Devoxx content, and post construct public void init client, and the client is client builder, new client. And by the way, or new builder, what we get new is connect timeout, execute read timeout, and executor service, which is kind of a bulkhead. This client can be not only asynchronous, it could be also reactive. So I can specify how many threads this client get to access Devoxx page, right? Bulkhead again to protect the server. I will skip that because you know it right now. So new client is the thing, new client. And this is JAXRS stock, nothing new here. This client. And this client target, and should be this Devoxx PL. Hopefully it works. And this is this Devoxx, and now what I could do is this Devoxx is also cool, but request queue. It's very important. Get response. And now it's interesting. So response read entity string class. But I would like to introduce some monitoring here. And what I could do is I can say add inject metric registry. So what I would like to show, what I do all the time, business metrics, more interesting than pointless counting of methods. So I think it's registry type, very good. And I would like to introduce the business metric. And now what I can do, I can say registry counter, and this is Devoxx status plus response get status inc. And what happens now? Nothing, because I always have to invoke still invoke the classes, right? We have, this is like where's my class? Conference scanner. It is here. So now, ping resource, conference scanner, inject conference scanner, and oh, unfortunately, string conf at get path conf and return scanner dot get Devoxx content. Hopefully it will work. Now, Devoxx Poland looks good. Shrink, and this was conf. You see, it works. So we got the beautiful, conference page with links. We would even, links, the old browser. So you should something see on the screen. But what I wanted to show you is the following. Matrix application. You see application Devoxx status 200. So there was one successful call. So what I did, I created a metric on the fly. And if the page would go down, which I could show you by disable the wireless LAN, it would be counter probably, 400 or whatever, 401. So I have here an invocation counter with all status codes. You understand what I did? No? Yes? This is the counter here. So this is new. Devoxx status. So I know the external microservice via HTTP was invoked once with 200. So I created a dynamic counter which counts, all the status code with one liner. And I use the counters all the time. The most important metric to me are counters. How many, dragons woke up? How many invocations were not successful? This is the most important thing. How many items have you sold? How many fraud attempts there were? Just, to get an idea what happens. And in the continuous integration pipeline, what I do, we expose the metrics first, then with JMH, Java Micro Benchmark Harness, we generate a lots of load and then compare our threshold with that what is exposed via the metrics.
So then how you get dedicated thread for the metrics endpoint?
In Whitefly is already there. So in Whitefly it already comes via the admin port 9200, and in OpenLiberty you can expose it. And in Payara you will also create an HTTP endpoint, I think it's called. So you only have to create an endpoint and dedicate 2 threads, and you are done. Okay?
This page is rendered by
By a microprofile, and this what you see, this strange thing has nothing to do with microprofile. This format is called Open Metrics, and this is what the cloud providers are using because Prometheus is the quasi-standard, I would say. What I cannot show you right now, we get distributed tracing for free as well. This is distributed tracing API. So all the microservices will send requests to a common instance, and the common instance is Jaeger.io. This is also CNCF, has nothing to do with microprofile, but it's already standardized, right? Cool? So, and what I really like, time to first commit, you saw, 25 deployments today, and the whole package is 7K, and the average build time was 2 seconds. Okay, how much time do we have? 10 minutes. So now kill that and kill, what is it? Looks like Liberty. No, NetBeans. Also not needed. Liberty, not needed. So everything was killed almost. The Prometheus also not needed. And now something interesting, hopefully. What about Kubernetes? So what I did I created a war, so I would just close whatever I can. This is also not needed. Okay, so now we have this. So I have a war which was created several times, and this is the war, and the war is 7K somewhere. So where's the war? In target is 7K, yes. And what I also have is Kubernetes and OpenShift running in background, and Docker as well, which makes it a little bit slow, the whole my environment. But what I would like to do is Payara S2I, Payara Micro S2I, and the project name is Shrink. So what I already have is OpenShift is running in background, and here it is empty. So there is nothing there. And what I would like to do is to run the application in OpenShift. And what I showed you right now is not like conference mode where I just ship default application server. This is S2I, stands for source to image. and is the possibility to fully configure the server over and over again. So you are able to set up data sources, set up the bulkheads on the application server, do whatever is needed. And I will use Payara Micro because I use usually Payara full all the time. So, and what it does, it just fires up Maven, because I always forget it. And it created an app already. And as you can see, the application is now on Kubernetes. It is starting. And now it is scaling. And now we have the application running on Kubernetes OpenShift cloud. Some startups, we use the same approach for Microsoft Azure or Google, and it's exactly the same because it's Kubernetes. So we can actually test locally and push to the cloud whenever we like. Standard war, as I said, there's no tricks, nothing. It's, yeah. And of course, let's see whether it works. If I go here and say, what was it? Shrink resources ping. So it works now, I'm real in the cloud, right? So now, the cool story is, watch this. So we have the application server running here on the cloud, my private cloud. OC, scale, DC, and I think it's shrink, replicas equals 2. So now we have 2 services running. And the same experience you get with Whitefly and the same with Payara. So this is what we do. We actually have a local development. On every push, this happens on OpenShift or Kubernetes. It's the same. OK? Now, 6 minutes to go, so I can show you something else. So now, OC delete all -l app equals shrink. And now, clouds is dead. So no more clouds. I will skip Docker. It's obvious that it also works in Docker because Docker is behind the scenes. So I usually show Docker. Everyone is excited because it's fast, but forget Docker. It will build and start in 1 second or something. OK? Any questions still? No. Then set up Quarky and now do the proper dragon. Set up Quarky, dragon. So what is Quarkus? What I like about Quarkus, we'll say in a second because it's hard to explain. And on slides, dragon. So now we don't need this anymore, and this anymore, and this anymore. So code. Now we can switch also a bit here. So now what I have here, I have project like the last one, so ping resource. So it is identical. This is what I like, is like all microprofiles and part of Java EE are supported. So and the POM, I know the current version is 16.1, so I would like to use the current one. And this basically it. So what if I clean and install the project, so now there is some additional magic going on, and what I get back is a jar, which is 316K. It's a little bit larger than the last one. And the reason why it's so large, this is Quarky is my Maven archetype, which I created with all microprofile dependencies, all I need in project. So this is the largest possible Quarkus size. You can ask yourself, okay, is this 300 kilobyte? Why it is so small or so big? So it is way bigger than the war, right? But too small for the whole runtime. And the cool story in Quarkus, the first thing, which is really cool, is all the dependencies are in lib folder. You can say why it's cool. I mean, the jar is 300K, and I get 45 dependencies in lib. Because of Docker, the cool story is we get the same separation as in Java EE out of the box in Quarkus. So in my projects, in evaluations, it's too early. Quarkus came in March and was usable in April. So it's like 3 months really usable. But what we already do in evaluations, we put all the libs in a base Docker layer, and we deploy the 316K, all the time. And the base Docker layer only changes if Quarkus changes. It's the same story as war and application servers. So this is not a fat jar which is very good because I never got the fed jars and Uber jars, because why I have, to rebuild the whole stuff if only 5K changes? I mean, I never got it, but now they do it right. I mean, they don't even attempt, to rebuild all the stuff. And the cool story is, of course, you can Java -jar, you can start the runner, and it starts immediately. This is the slowest possible start because, as you can see, I added everything I need. This is the whole microprofile, and transactions and JSON-B and JTA transactions and YGET distributed tracing. So this is not what you usually see at conferences. This is Quarkus from my project with all the dependencies I need. So it's the largest possible Quarkus. Okay, now one thing which can also save a lot of time is the following. And by the way, the Payara S2I and Payara Micro are on my GitHub account. This is no magic, actually. If you like, you can use the builder. So this is a standard way in OpenShift to build servers. Whitefly is already built in. So if you have Whitefly, there's nothing to do. And I created this S2I images for Payara and Payara Micro. Okay? So actually, it's very easy. It's a script with 70 lines of bash code. So this is the S2I. So there's nothing, no magic there. So, okay, so this is, and this, watch and deploy. Now, one thing we can also save a lot of time is the following. So we have ping resource, and let's say, what about that? I would like to inject a principal. And the principal has a name. And what I also would like to have is this JSON web token. Why would I like to have it? Because we have web frontends, and they like to have tokens. Inject. Now, and what I can do, I can say here, token get groups. So now, it's done. So I got asked question, why you don't showing us, some Java EE security and authentication and authorization? Because now it's done. There's nothing else to do. So this is done. And now, the problem starts. How to get the token, key cloak, and all the stuff, all the setup. And so what I did, I created a small tool which generates tokens for testing purposes. There's always a little bit pain. In test, I would like to be, the chief, the admin, or the guest, and how to test that. So I created a Java tool again. It's called Jotanizer. So it's also Jotanizer SH. So it's just had nothing to do with Java EE. It just creates tokens. But this was for me for testing the stuff. And now you would like to show you two things. First, how to test it. And second, how to use JSON Web Token for authentication and authorization in MicroProfile. And so all application servers, because all application servers support that. And the cool story is what you can minimize proprietary servlet filters from Keycloak. You don't need them anymore. So you can remove all the stuff, for instance. All the setup is no more needed. Okay, now, Jotanizer. So what it does, it creates a call for tests with the included bearer token. And what it also creates is microprofile properties with the public key, because how it works is the private key is on Keycloak. It signs the tokens, and the public key is used to verify the tokens. So you need both, right? And so I would like to copy the microprofile properties to source main resources. I think application properties. This should be the place. Let's see. This is the configuration, microprofile configuration 950. Sounds right. So, and then what I also would have to do is to say, I forgot that. This is permit all, so because we would like just to find out. And this is the standard Java EE annotations. I could use rows allowed, whatever you like. So, and I can inject all the claims as well. So now, if I will launch, how it's called, Maven clean install. And by the way, Maven compile Quarkus dev. There is a dev mode which watches the files. So I don't need the what anymore. This is done by Quarkus. Let's see. So now it watches my changes and will redeploy the changes on every file change, on every save. So, and this would be 8080, and this was, I think, ping, right? As you can see, okay, my hello Duke, hacker and chief, there are 2 roles. And the question is where the roles are stored, and the roles are stored in J2 token JSON. So I can store the roles here. They are read. The JSON web token is generated and passed. But the point is, what you see here, what happens is, from the JSON web token principal, the principal is created, and from the JSON web token groups, the rows are created automatically without any additional configuration. So this is also so-called microprofile JWT. Okay? Questions? No questions? And the last thing, nothing. So the JSON web token is self-contained. You only need authorization server, you know, to get the token. But if you already have it, it works. So, and what you saw here, I just created a small tool which creates the tokens, which has nothing to do with Java EE, and I use the token on the thing, right? So what it means is, if I change it here, so if I go here and say, I would like to be, you see, these are the groups, also the dragons, and this is the user principal, is and just regenerate that. I give dragons, and Wavel is the principal. And the information is encoded here. So forget the tool. The first time I was able to demonstrate how the security actually works, because I got lots of questions showing us like, without the server, I cannot show you how to get a token. Okay? So time to first commit, how easy it is to set up authentication authorization. And I just use Quarkus to show you Quarkus, but it will work on OpenLiberty and all the servers, actually. It's a very well-documented feature. And the last one, we're a little bit over time, but create. I would like to start, wrong folder. Create a project just blank. This is the usual way how to start Quarkus projects. Yes, yes. So now a Maven clean install. So it started. Activity monitor, Java, uses, this is this one, memory, it uses, a lot. Wait a second. Sometimes it is the Visual Studio Code, the language server. No, exactly. This is 250 megabyte, so it is less than Visual Studio Code. Now, I would just kill that, and what I can do is clean install -p native. With Quarkus, the whole deal is, because it knows about the Java EE programming model, all the dependencies, it is able to cross-compile to native code, which I do right now. So what I get is binary, which comprises Java, all the code, and all the dependencies. And this starts in 200 milliseconds, and usually the size is a view max, so you get it for free. So the cool story is, someone asked me now about Quarkus, whether we use it in production. We could, but we don't have it. We don't have to. The cool story is we can start with OpenLiberty or Whitefly, and if Quarkus doesn't work, we can just fall back to the other ones, so there is no real, dependency, which I really like. Okay? Questions? Right.
So that seems easy when you start a new application from scratch, but what about existing application which uses, let's say, Spring Boot, Hibernate, JMS,
Spring Boot is out of my realm, but in J2E and Java EE, whatever we do is always the same. We remove all the superfluous dependencies, and then we split the application apart. And Spring Boot is like alternative to Quarkus. If you have already Spring Boot, you should be happy and forget about Quarkus. So.
What Quarkus indeed is the runner, or
What Quarkus is okay. Wait a second. I would just like to start it. I started, otherwise, the whole effect is gone. So this is the runner. ls-lh. The runner is 20 megs, and if I run it, it already started. You see how fast it was, and there should be blank. And the memory consumption is 8 megs. It's like Go library. So what Quarkus is a framework, a runtime, which relies on Java EE programming model, CDI. Everything is CDI, and they come with one trick. All the dependencies, so-called Quarkus extensions, and they move whatever was dynamic at runtime to build time. So what they do is they search all the dependencies, they parse all the XML files. So the runtime is tiny, because the application server or Quarkus runtime doesn't need anymore XML parsers, deployments. This is just a static, more or less static library. So the cool story is, this is what I really like Quarkus. They use the Java EE programming model and just and go further. It's not like a change. It's an extreme optimization in the right direction. So don't even try now to create a super jar for what? They created a small jar which references, if you open this in manifest MF, there are dependencies to all the class path dependencies to all the libs. It is server runtime, but you always get one jar, a Java jar or a native jar. And Docker is well integrated. Kubernetes, they have extensions for Kafka, Kubernetes, whatever. There are 45 extensions, and it's really well documented, right? But the idea is move whatever possible to build time. And I also create Quarkus extension on my GitHub if you like. Take a look on this, but this is pointless. What I wanted to show you, how much code you can save and how much productive you can become. And this is what I do all the time. So actually, we split the applications all the time. And the main challenge is to understand the business behind, not the technology. So we remove all the frameworks, and if we know what's going on, you can split it. Cool. If you like stickers, here are stickers. Thank you. And 50 minutes are too short, but hopefully it was something interesting. And see you next year.